Good day guys, nice to have you here. Today we'll talk about some heroes that might just help you overcome the power of the tank meta. Before we begin, let me first give you some suggestions to help you gain more success against such lineups. Some heroes on this video are not ideally picked early. Some of these are niche picks but can work effectively against a strategy centered around a tank or number of tanks. So if you're gonna pick these heroes, make sure you do so in order to counter lineups centralized around powerful tank carries. Next is make sure you get the right items as well. Damage that scales based on how high the enemy's HP is usually the ideal choice, and also items that penetrate defense. And finally, make sure you read hero skill effects in order for you to utilize their abilities to their full potential. Before we continue, I want to give my shoutouts to QWERTY. Thank you so much for always and still supporting the channel. You're awesome. Karina's passive skill allows her third attack to deal true damage based on the missing HP of her target. This means if her target has a high HP pool, her passive's damage will inflict even greater damage. And since this is true damage, that means it ignores the qualities of physical and magic defense. On a side note, I also suggest playing her with defensive items and focus on attributes that will give her max cooldown reduction. This will allow her to survive longer in clashes and be able to spam her skills more, which will allow her to gain access to her passive skill more. Also, don't get her fleeting time. Please don't. D-Rot's effectiveness as a tank buster lies in his second skill and ultimate. His second skill's second phase decreases his target's physical defense by half temporarily. As for his ultimate, its damage scales according to the lost HP. The higher the max HP is of the enemy or enemy's hit, the more powerful its damage becomes. What also makes D-Rot good against most tanky heroes is his passive skill. His attacks allows him to gain rage, which improves both his first and second skill's effects, one of which is the boost it provides to his second skill's physical defense reduction from 50% becoming 75% worth of defense reduction. Valyr's passive is what makes him a good anti-tank hero. His passive allows his magic damage to mark enemies, and those who reach 3 marks will receive true damage that scales based on the enemy's max HP. The higher their max HP is, the greater the damage becomes. Another reason why he is good against such lineups is his second skill. Most tank heroes have a short or melee range, thus making it difficult for them to freely attack because of Valyr's second skill's control effects. You can also play him with mostly defensive items, and because of his passive, unlike other mages, his damage output is still decent even with only 1 to 2 magic damage items. This makes him a mage with very high survivability and guarding abilities whilst being able to pump up so much damage for the team. Carry is an obvious choice. After all, the moment she was released, she was already marketed as a tank buster. Her passive allows her attacks to mark her enemies, and once that mark reaches 5, she will inflict true damage based on how high their max HP is. The higher their max HP, the more powerful this damage becomes. I suggest investing on items with cooldown reduction in order for her to cast her second skill more frequently, which makes her playstyle a little bit the same with 1-1. Another trick with her is she doesn't need too many damage items. In my opinion, Carry can be played same way as Karina. Get her defensive items with cooldown reduction and rely on her skills to cause mayhem. In my opinion, Golden Staff is the only exception since this item benefits her well in terms of marking her enemies efficiently and quickly. Hilda's ultimate is probably one of the most powerful ultimates right now. It boasts tremendous damage once max stacks have been reached. Not only does it gain the ability to penetrate physical defense, but each stack boosts her ultimate's damage, which greatly scales according to the target's max HP. The greater their max HP is, the more powerful its damage becomes. She can be a useful hero when it comes to getting rid of pesky tank carries, or at least in dealing significant damage to make it easier for her teammates to take the enemy down. The good news is, she can be a very tanky damager as well. You only need to give her between 1 to 2 damage items such as Malefic Roar and Blade of Despair, and then the rest is up to you. And trust me, even with only 2 items, she can deal between 3,000 to more than 4,000 damage using her ultimate. There you go, 5 heroes that can be good picks against most lineups that are centered around tanks. Do you have any other recommendations? If you do, leave your thoughts on the comment section below, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe everyone. Peace.